Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Schmelter, and I've been here at Whiskey Hill for a couple of years now with Suavec, and my talk today is on passion fruit. And I'm kind of the passion fruit specialist of our fruit club, and we've all kind of chosen these roles to try to just have concentrated learning so we can share. So this is kind of a knowledge share for all that I've learned about passion fruits over the past few years, and also over the past, my research in preparation for this talk. Excuse me, I'm going to move the table so I can just click through the slides a little easier and not block the screen. Cool. All right, sweet. So here we are, lovely October afternoon, passion fruit. This is the talk. You guys probably saw them. There's plenty in that bag there if you guys want to taste them. But it's a really cool fruit, so let's get into it. What I'm going to talk about is the history, fruit, economics, species and varieties, kind of the breeding. Jordan, hey buddy. So I'm going to talk about the fruit and the economics of passion fruit, the different species and varieties. There's a ton of species. And also going to talk about cultivation and propagation, which is what we do here in the greenhouses and in the propagation house. So, and this is a beautiful banana passion fruit flower. So let's get into it. So the history is passion fruit, or Passiflora as a genus, is native to mostly South America, like Brazil, Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador. And it's kind of an Amazon plant, and it grows kind of in the savannas there too, and there's a couple different varieties in the mountains as well. A lot of them are actually from the Andes, these like mid-elevation Andes environments. So that's why we have a lot of subtropical varieties that are temperate for like cancers. So that's cool. So we can grow it. It's not just tropical, but it is mostly tropical. There's 400, 500 species. Most are not particularly tasty, and there's a ton of diversity. So there's super drought-tolerant ones, there's trees, there's shrubs, there's vines, but most of the commercial ones are vines. I think it's really good to get some tree varieties to try to conserve those. So a little name history. It was named by a Spanish monk or missionary about Passion of the Christ, so it's thought to have, so it's thought that the five spades, which are the male pollen parts, are supposed to be the 5 wounds of Christ, and then the 3 stigmas are the Trinity of Christ. So it's all this imagery, and in some of the other fruits, these kind of frills, they're called coronal filaments. Corona just means like the flower, the some of the flower. They're thought to be like the crown of Christ. So there's all this religious imagery in passion flower. But it's become really more popular. It's been popular for a while. It was popular in the UK, kind of after the explorers kind of brought all these plant specimens back, and they brought hundreds of species over to these big opulent glass greenhouses in kind of the booming European 1700s. So that was a huge boom, and they got all these beautiful varieties that were very aesthetically focused, and it was crazy because they could get tropical climates in the 1700s. But now there's been a big resurgence with scientists and with foodies and with permaculturalists. So I did a few different things here. On this side, there's a number of scientific papers published about the genetics of passion fruit, and I'm a geneticist, so I'm fascinated. I've got a bunch of papers on breeding and the molecular structure, kind of chemicals, really cool stuff. And I kind of compared it here to a bunch of different other kind of rare fruits, and passion fruit is among the top. It's kind of this blue line in worldwide, followed by guavas. Tamarillos is coming up, but I also kind of noticed a seasonal boom around summer. So passion fruit, they fruit in the late summer, basically, or the fall. Yeah, question?
What is the Y?
So the y-axis here is like popularity of search trends. So this is Google's like analytics platform for how popular a particular search is. So it was kind of a estimation of like the popularity of a particular idea on the internet.
What are the numbers next on the left?
Yeah, so these are kind of a normalized score of search trend popularity.
Okay. But not the total number.
No, yeah, it's not anything super meaningful other than like a normalized popularity search score kind of thing. And welcome, by the way. Hey. So Passionfruits kind of blown up. It's like quadrupled or something in the past 10 years online, basically. And that takes me to the fruit and the economics of it. And there's a ton of like really funny and very cool like programs about how to make a passion fruit business, which are pretty interesting all over Africa and South America. There's people who are selling like passion fruit classes, and it's kind of this interesting market but it's pretty expensive. So it's we at this farm make about $8 or $10 a pound, and there's tons and tons of fruit produced. But at the grocery stores like New Leaf in town, you can get $20 a pound for it. So it's pretty expensive, and it's pretty impressive if you can actually sell it or just enjoy it because they're really productive. So about 8 fruits per pound, and the yields are 10 to 35,000 pounds per acre. So it's a 15-acre farm, and it's assuming a pretty mature kind of farm, but there's a lot of those in Australia, New Zealand, and Africa and South America, where we get a lot of our fruits from import-wise. So yeah, people plant 200 to 600 plants per acre, I found, and I'm in my experience, a single plant can cover basically an entire wall. I got my first passion fruit Frederick adulis like 3 years ago, and there's some pictures, I guess, but it'll cover like an entire wall and produce 50 pounds plus of fruit. So a couple fun facts: they lose a quarter of their weight after 2 weeks of drying. So you have the shriveled ones, like in this picture. This one's a little overripe, but before that, they kind of lose a ton of their weight. And have you guys ever eaten a passion fruit and like bursts with gas? It's kind of like pressurized like a soda. Yeah, so passion fruit are really unique, and this is one of my favorite fun facts, because they produce the most ethylene of like any fruit. But instead of producing it on the outside, they all produce it on the inside, kind of in the pulp. So I thought that was cool. And most of the commercial like pulp passion fruit is this yellow variety called flavocarpa, and the most common like out of hand type are this purple variety. A bunch of varieties. There's a ton of purple varieties. So by weight, plants are quarter juice. Yeah, Jordan?
Do you have a favorite variety?
Oh yeah. Well, I'll get there when I get some varieties. These are my favorite, like as far as for me to grow.
Yeah.
I love Fredericks.
Those are the purple ones?
Purples, yeah. There's a lot of purples, but that's the red in Santa Cruz, and it's perfect for this climate. Cold hardy, gorgeous flowers.
Did you ever meet Frederick?
What?
Have you ever met Frederick?
No, I actually don't know the name story, but there's a.
Well, there's a guy in our group who actually created this hybrid. I don't know specific history and why
Worley.
Frederick, but Patrick Worley. If you look at any nurseries locally, most of the passion fruits will have his name on it, and he's a member of our group. But he's now living in Spain. He used to be professor at UCSC and lived here and developed many of those varieties, but then he retired to Spain.
Cool.
So, yep.
So cool. Yeah. This guy's been in it since the 90s, and he's probably hybridized like 50 species that are all really beautiful, really popular, mostly ornamental, but a couple really good ones. Storage is kind of interesting. A lot of online resources were talking about storage. They have like some people do wax coatings to sell commercially instead of shelf life. But for me they last 2-3 weeks. Yeah.
So for Frederick, how much
Yeah. Let me see how I can answer that. I think the most important thing for like for fruit, I guess, is to get flowering, and the flowers are really heat responsive. So I would say, kind of in the early summer when it gets to be 80 plus degrees, that's when you'll start seeing flower bud initiation, and every node basically can have a flower bud. So I would say 80 would be my guess, but yeah. Have you had trouble flowering them or fruiting them?
Yeah, I mean, I have one that I've been growing for 1.5 years, Frederick.
Yeah.
But it probably flowers like 2 or 3 a year.
Flowers?
That's it. And then they do convert into fruit, but it's not like a prolific grower, grower like the way you were saying.
Yeah. That's
This is the second 2.5 years now.
Yeah. Well, I think they have a lot of root growth. They before they really flower. Like, my like big garden passion fruit. It took like a year. Like the second year, it had like not that many fruit, but the third year was covered, and that was. So I think, you might
Wait another year.
you might just be another year, and it'll probably be even better. I would hope, but yeah. Usually it's not a huge problem to get temperatures in the summer.
It's also a problem with Frederick if you live in too cold place. I lived in Woodside, it was too cold to grow them there. They just all died in winter. So Santa Cruz is perfect.
Yeah. So right, for cold tolerance of Frederick too, they will have a die off if it's in the like below freezing kind of zone, like 20s, mid 20s. There's a couple varieties that don't kind of they get a little low. Yeah.
Will the whole plant die, or will the fruits just die and the flowers die?
Yeah. So mostly it's the whole like shoot system. Yeah, for sure the flowers and fruit. But it's for Frederick, they're supposed to die down to like to basically to the ground if it gets below like 25. So which hasn't happened to me yet, but that's what I've read.
Let the root stock survive.
Yeah, they usually survive.
I've heard there are varieties that can survive in the Northeast. They will die back to the ground, but then sprout after winter. And because you have such a hot climate, they will just grow like an annual, basically.
Yeah.
So you're thinking Passiflora incarnata or maypop.
Yeah.
I grew it in New Jersey, and it's indeed does pop out sometimes 6 or 7 feet away from original spot. Like I planted on a fence, and it popped out in the middle of the lawn after winter.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big thing too for passion fruit is they send like runners and then root, especially for maypop, which is kind of a incarnata or maypop. It's like it's kind of more bushy, and so it really runs. But yeah, right. Incarnata is really supposed to be down to like the teens in Fahrenheit for cold tolerance. Melissa is also pretty cold tolerant, and Adulis is the one that just kind of getting there more and more. People have been breeding for that for a while. But yeah, just the biggest thing is strong trellis, I would say, because they'll grow really they grow 50 feet wide. And some varieties even super tall, 50 feet tall if you have like a tree. So trellis is really important. They do prefer acidic soil, which I learned in my research, which is actually, they said it produced a lot better fruit quality. There's been lots of studies, kind of similar to grapes, full sun. But one of the coolest things is they can be used for like a shade trellis, basically. You have wasabi on the other side. But really in a greenhouse like we have here, you can just get a ton of flowers and a ton of fruit. And here's turmeric below. You can see every node has a flower and a fruit. So that's what you want, and hopefully hopefully that'll be coming. Yeah. So yeah, there's like 500 species. But these are the main ones to not overwhelm anybody. So Adulis is the common, which has purple and yellow, which is really confusing. And there's another slide for it, but just real quick, Melissima is a really big one. In that book, around somewhere, it says that that's one of the most flavorful varieties. passion fruit. Yeah.
That's also, there's hundreds of them on the floor in the Chadwick Garden right now at UCSD. It's climbing all the way up one of the big trees, and you can find them like everywhere. Just in the dirt.
Is Chadwick Garden open already?
Yeah.
Oh,
They're good.
cool.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a couple of varieties that are like very similar too, which are like mixta, Passionfruit mixta, and a couple others that are supposed to be like similar look but not quite as tasty. But yeah, you'll get these big pink flowers. If it's pink, it's probably a banana passion fruit. But yeah, Incarnata is maypop, which is a different slide. Yeah, but for like tropical, you basically get sweet grenadilla, regularis, quadrangularis, which is like this big one, and they even eat the like skin as like a squash, baked. But yeah, most of like if you see in like a Mexican grocery store, like passion fruit pulp, it'll be this sweet grenadilla type. Yeah. There's also a couple of like really awesome and really common ornamentals. We have like red, blue, and purple. There's some pictures. Yeah, so this is the Frederick that we grow. We have several greenhouses full of Frederick, and it produces these kind of long coronal filaments with this like purple and white with like this wavy pattern. So that's cool. Otherwise, the petals are pretty white. Really prolific. Here's 1 year growth from 2020 to 2021 at my house, old house, I guess.
Did you plant that on that cacao?
That's cacao, yeah.
How old is it on the left?
The left is like 1.5 to 2 years, and this is around 3 years, maybe 3.5. Yeah, but this one was really weird because the first year it didn't grow any shoots at all, and I got it as a maybe 2-foot plant. So that was weird, but it really pulled through. Passionfruit adulis, tons of varieties, very confusing. This is kind of the OG sim, which is this purple. There's red varieties, and this is kind of the more common yellow variety, flavocarpa. And they're, it's pretty confusing because the flowers look damn near identical. But there are distinctions. So yeah, this is a really cool variety that's kind of invasive in the south, and it's called maypop. But the great part is it's cold hardy, not super tasty. Ornamentals. These are some ornamentals. This is at my parents' house. This is what got me in. This plant here at the bottom is what got me into passion fruit and passion flowers. This is a cerulean or blue kind of passion flower, and it's got this white and blue. Versus if you look at adulis, it's got purple and white. So different kind of colored gene expression going on. This is one of my new favorites, which is ornamental called Purple Tiger. It's really red, has these beautiful red petals. It's huge. It's probably like 6 inches wide. And this is one of a clone that I made just from the neighborhood, which is amethyst. Really pretty, purple, lots of flowers. But in general, the flower cycle is 1 day. So it's kind of tough, yeah. And and some of them have pollination issues. One of the big advantages of like Frederick is that it's self-fertile, and it needs bees and insects, but it's not like super hard to pollinate. Yeah, so get into propagation. I've been doing lots of experiments with propagating from cuttings with passion fruits, passion flower stems, and so I found that in about 6 weeks I had a lot of success with cocoa core media and with a bag as kind of a humidity dome. And so some of my early rooting experiments, it was just in a windowsill, very successful, but the windowsill had a light screen, so it didn't get direct sunlight, because I've also killed many tests just through like direct sunlight, and clones are really sensitive, or cuttings at least, are really sensitive to light, I guess, sunburn. So Then the other thing for this method, which is like bag method, is white stem mold. If it's too much moisture and there's not a ton of circulation, they'll get mold. And I had that way too much, and I did one, and I measured the amount of water, and then half the amount of water, and half the amount of water again, trying to do controlled trials, and lots of mold, so not very much success. So it's kind of temperamental, but this was a really successful round, and I think it was a little earlier. A lot of the mold was done this summer, so it's hotter. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So mold in the summers, but also regardless of the amount of water used, it sounded like?
Yeah, the water, I mean, I didn't go super low with it, but it definitely still molded. And I would try to pull the moldy stems out, but it was kind of tricky. I was using a method that I stole from figs called Fig Pop, which is really easy because you just get a bag, like a bread bag, and put media in, and then some cuttings in, and just like with a rubber band or whatever. And then for figs and passion fruits, it works really well, but it does have these issues.
What do you mean when you say a bread bag? Are you saying it was plastic?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
You think that's the issue, right?
Yeah. Because it won't have the ventilation, it won't breathe.
Yeah.
That's why. If you did it maybe in sacking or something,
yeah,
that would be different. But I think you would pretty much always run into that if it's plastic.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've done some other experiments with like a tub, like a clear plastic tub with like a glass over it. And that was, I didn't have that same issue. So maybe
it
that's...
would have been bigger, so...
Right,
yeah.
more circulation.
Yeah.
It's definitely like the worst possible ventilation. But it's also the easiest, which is why it was tempting. But so I mean, I'll think about it. I'll have to try that next try.
Are you trying to trap the humidity just to keep the soil damp, or is it because, so why not just water it more?
Just negligence.
Okay.
General, I'm allergic to work if I don't have to, or at least I try to do the minimum that I have to, if I can get good plants out of it, and sometimes I can, but sometimes I can't, so, yeah.
What's the best time of year to do that?
Well, it's just like most things propagation-wise, it's like, you can either use a heat mat, root mat, or just do it in the spring or summer, or even now, you can probably do it inside, pretty much any time inside. What the best temperature for propagation is like 68 to like 75. I mean, does that sound right?
I think
a lot of people
the trick is you want the soil to be warm. That's the baseline, isn't it?
Right, like 70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in general.
Yeah, right. And inside, it's usually warm enough, I would say. But outside, I found no success. That was when I did the tubs, and I put them outside. I think, it was good. This will be fine, but it was too cold. So, yeah.
Are they particularly susceptible to mold in general, or only in the rooting process and stuff like that?
I think that was just my process, which I was, I got great success with once, and then I was trying to like replicate, and I found it difficult. So, but in general, I don't think they're mold prone. There are some fruit molds, but not too bad.
I get nice fogs rolling in from the coast.
Oh, yeah.
My fig tree has leaf rust, but so far both passion fruits are okay. So,
You have Nancy Harrison and another type?
what's that?
What types do you have?
They're both fancy guys.
Oh, cool. Nice. And yeah, they produce great fruits, so those are huge. Frederick were a bit smaller somehow. So I'd like to experiment with air layering more. I haven't actually succeeded with that. Yeah.
So the way you propagate is, do you propagate from the suckers, or can you propagate from any part of the plant if it has a node?
Yeah, the second one. But it's, this is something I've been trying to experimenting with because there's a lot of ways to go wrong. If it's too cold, if your media is too wet, too dry. I've had, if there's too much sun, there's too little sun. You really gotta dial in all the metrics, and I haven't found great light sensors or humidity sensors that are, just right. I have temperature sensors, but the rest has been tricky to dial in.
And do they need a cold snap in order to continue their life process, or can they just stay in just temperate warm all the time?
I think they can do temperate warm all the time. Yeah, there's no cold, chill hours kind of thing, like fruit trees. I've not heard of that, but yeah, I know some varieties are like less tropical, and they like, you know, if they get to be in the 90s for too long in high humidity or whatever, they'll not be like that, I guess. So yeah, I got some transplant shock when I planted my big one, and this one here, and it basically was like just completely stagnant for 1 year, and I think that was just because it focused on roots, but then it really blew up, so that was good. But yeah, I'm still kind of have it. Has anybody else experienced transplant shock and your passion fruit, or comments on that?
I have one that was the same thing, didn't do anything for a year.
Yeah.
Then it grew, but it's always been like the runt of the litter. But also, the good one has a gopher basket, and this one doesn't. So I don't know what's going on underneath there. Did you have gophers at that property?
No. Well, we didn't have gophers. Actually, yeah, we did. And they got a lot of brassicas and tomatoes, but not passion fruits. And although we only had, you know, 2 or 3 plants. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a passion fruit in ground and it got obliterated. And I basically dug it out, put it into a basket, and then it kept growing.
Oh, nice.
They'll survive their roots back on. They're really
Were there roots left?
so.
Oh, that's great.
I was
That's great.
I had to
Oh, yeah. Okay. Right on. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, we've actually planted probably hundreds of thousands of seeds just between Slavek and the group here. And my experience has been kind of a low germination rate.
What does that mean? What's the like percentage?
I don't know. I would say like, you know, 5% or less. I mean, you guys are you're probably the expert,
It's
Nikki. I don't
interesting
mean
because
to.
I remember we did a ton last kind of wintry,
Mm-hmm.
late summer. I can't remember when it was, but they went through the winter, you know, from seed, and it was a bit of a random watering situation also.
Yeah.
But we really had super low
Yeah.
take on
And we
that.
planted
Yeah,
thousands, tens of thousands.
yeah.
So yeah.
But then those
Funky.
we did have a whole group of staff that was on the benches, and it was a bit more monitored. And we did have take from that. All the stuff that's gone up to 4 inches and up to 6 inches came from those benches, which had a bit more care. So
Water.
it was a bit random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And like a year ago, we were a lot less consistent in the water. So that could be it too. Yeah.
When you propagate, are you just putting them into like clean cocoa, or are you adding a nutrient? Do they like really nutrient-rich soils to start off with?
Yeah. So from cuttings, like this picture, it was Jets cocoa, and yeah. I
Do
mean,
they generally like a lot of different things in their soil?
there's kind of I don't know. I'm not sure if there's a consistent answer, but you know, I think yes, they do. We haven't had nearly as much like yellowing in the propagation house as for passion fruits, in my experience, as other types like guavas. You know, they drain nutrients really fast, as well as like tamarillos. But yeah, I don't know if other people have input as far as nutrient.
I've been told to use citrus
load.
fertilizer.
Yeah, because what is that have in it? Is it acidic?
Acidic, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that's one thing I read a couple different places was that you know, they do best in like soil around like pH 5 or like, you know, pH, you know, 5.5. Yeah. So yeah, so pretty acidic, I would say. Kind of like blueberries.
I've seen like high nitrogen content too.
Yeah, some people say they're heavy
It's good
feeders.
for fruit.
Yeah, I mean they grow fast, so you'd
Yeah.
imagine that they would want nitrogen.
We had the Dave's mixture of molasses and fish emulsion, you know, through the fertigation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, did you notice that? So maybe that was why they didn't get any yellowing or not so bad of yellowing.
Probably, yeah. I mean, because we could actually control that,
Right.
so we could take that down or up as we wanted.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. I think foliar feeding is something I'd like to learn more about, probably.
Foliar feed?
Yeah.
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 Interesting.
It's pretty interesting. So that's from seeds. There's cuttings and from seeds, both are propagation. And another thing about Frederick is it's an F1, so it doesn't breed true. Just go to the Frederick picture again. Yeah, so it's a cross by this Santa Cruz local Patrick Worley. And it's kind of there's some debate about which are the parents because it didn't tell people, but it doesn't breed true. So and a lot of species are or a lot of varieties are like this. So you kind of have to do cutting propagation instead of seeds. So that's a little weird nuance to it. This is another F1. Probably sterile, or possibly sterile.
The purple tiger.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's definitely some sterility. So, and there's just some references there. There's a lot more that I didn't mention, but and I guess now I want to just open it up to discussion and questions.
Could you go back to the slide where you have the other varieties to grow?
This one? Species or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, want me to just go over it?
I just wanted to get it.
Well,
which
which ones do we grow?
Yeah.
All
which
of them.
ones do we grow? Well, we grow, these two, Grenadilla, are the tropical varieties, and I think Swabic planted some just maybe a few months ago, 4 months ago, and they're doing really well through summer. But there's some question about will they fruit, will they flower? Nobody's got them to flower in the West Coast.
Actually, some people did, but fruits didn't taste that great.
Okay. Yeah, so that's tricky, and those probably need a lot of heat. These top three are, I think we grow all of them. We definitely do. And Maypop, I'm not quite sure where it is. Maybe it's gotten lost. Yeah.
Do you have any experience with growing them in native soil, or have you always kind of embedded them with your own high acidic, nitrogen heavy soil?
Let's see. Well, I'm pretty low, low intervention. I'm going to be doing some more testing on that, but not a ton. I guess the soil at my previous house, where it was growing on the fence, was pretty much
I know right where that was.
Really?
Oh, absolutely, because I walked to the climbing gym,
Oh,
and all my
nice.
friends, I'd be like, everybody stop. Like, look at this, because I had been there in the past year, and I came back the next year, and it just blew my mind. Like, I couldn't even believe it. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah,
It's
that's
I want
great.
to kick one so bad, but they're not mine.
I know, but the grounders, I think the grounders are fair game. That's how I.
There's
Right.
someone on 17th. There's someone on 17th with a very big vine covering their whole front
Mm-hmm.
fence, but they wrap it in bird netting.
Wow.
So it's a big
Break into their
one. I
house.
think you're very clear
Yeah.
how they feel about.
Yeah.
Well, because people, I think the common tragedy of the commons is people pick too early.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is a tinge of purple,
Sure.
and then they pick it, and you're like, oh, you should have waited a week.
Yeah.
And one of the things I meant to mention is passion fruit take a ton of a long time to ripen. From flower to dropped purple. It's 50 to 100 days.
Wow.
And I think Frederick is in the middle of that. So we have Frederick's dropping right now. It's October. Maybe the flowers were in July or something. Yeah.
Question. So do you guys wait until your fruit drop before
Mhm.
harvesting them?
Yeah.
Or you don't pull them off the vine?
Yeah, never.
Never.
I mean, you can. So that's just standard purple conventional. They just taste sweeter or something.
Sure.
If you pick them early, they'll be dried and not as juicy. And juice is pretty much what we're going for. These Grenadilla types are picked without dropping. People clip them. So that's kind of interesting. Not really sure, but one of the ideas that we've had in this group is we want to install basically net funnels, so that because our passion fruit, instead of being grown vertically, a lot of which they are, a lot of them are grown horizontally as like a shade structure. And so I kind of want to install like a neck funnel and then a bucket right here on the end. And that's kind of one of my goals at some point.
Automated harvesting.
Yeah, because you know harvesting is such a hassle, and
Oh, yeah, for sure.
even here, I think the harvesting gets left.
Especially if there's a crop like wasabi or turmeric under.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
wasabi is gonna be super wet, but also then you have to search for it.
Right, and soil compression.
There are a couple greenhouses that the crop has been cleared, so it's just on the ground.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't really be
Yeah.
necessary, but for like where it's growing over crops, it really.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
phenomenal idea.
And let's see, in this situation too,
Yeah.
we're learning about turmeric.
Yeah.
It's just such a maze, you know.
To try and find them.
To try to find them because it's just you're in 3 foot high
Turmeric land.
giant leaves, which is great, but not great for harvesting.
Is every kind of there's a ton of varieties, but the most popular edible varieties are or not edible, but tasty varieties. Are they all full sun, or do some of them like a little more?
Yeah, I think there's diversity. This is an enormously diverse genus, and the main varieties like the purples, the classic purples, I think will take as much sun as you can give them. I'm not really sure how low you can go with it. That's something I'm kind of experiencing too because I moved to the mountains and there's plenty of space, but not as much light because there's trees. So that's kind of something I'll be working with. Yeah, thanks. And I don't know. Do you have experience with that at all, like slow growth or something?
No,
Just-
just,
okay.
just curious to start ease the growth
I have
right now.
3 right now. I have a Frederick, Nancy, and a Rover. And I think I don't remember what their locations are, but they're all kind of under eave with like slatted wood, and so it gets morning sun, but not directly. But the 2 that are inside, there's 2 inside and 1 on the outside. The one on the outside, I don't remember which one it is. That one's just like going crazy, and that one has a bunch of flowers on it right now. But the other 2 that are set behind it that I don't think get quite as much direct sunlight, those ones like aren't even flowering right now. They're just like sending streamers out looking for more light, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, they're like totally focused on growth, while the other one is like, oh, this is enough sun, I'll just like start throwing out flowers.
Yeah.
It's been interesting to see.
Where's that at?
This is up off Skyline, like top of the mountain.
Oh, cool.
So,
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Is this your first year with those?
yeah,
guys?
yeah.
Okay,
I
cool.
just got those like 6 months ago.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah,
Cool.
thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I have another one growing in Los Gatos in my wife's family's yard, and it's like pretty neglected at this point, but it just made its first fruit, and it's been there for like 3 years now. And we moved out, and it's been like 6 months, and like it grew its first fruit, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gave it so much love and was like watering it. I was like out there every day, like messing with it, and I just abused it for 6 months, and it starts fruiting.
That's rough. The passion fruit are really heat responsive. So we had a kind of a weird thing happen here. It was like there was like a heat wave in like I don't know like April in Santa Cruz. Maybe it was April or like March. And we had a ton of flowers in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
And that was surprising.
I think that was right about when I got mine. And yeah, they had like all of them flowered a bunch.
Yeah.
And then Nancy had a fruit on it when I bought it, but it got stressed out and dropped that fruit. But it lasted for a few months before it dropped it.
Wow, the fruit?
Yeah, just sat there. Same size, same everything for like months, and then finally one day it was just gone. So.
Wow. I think your plants think they're in the wrong hemisphere.
Yeah, they were totally confused. Yeah, took them from like I got them from Monterey, and so they came from sea level to like 2,800 feet.
That's high. So up there it gets probably to the teens in temperature, lows.
A rare
Rarely.
snow. Rarely will snow
Mid-
maybe a day a year, and
So
it
this
doesn't
is-
stick.
Like 20s, like low 20s.
No, not
Mid-20s,
even.
probably.
Oh, that's
I
great.
would say it rarely gets below freezing in air temperature,
That's awesome.
but sometimes the snow will sit on the ground for a day or so.
Gotcha.
Last year, yeah, up there.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's last year.
Maybe
You guys
30.
get to test tree tomatoes for us.
Yeah. Sure.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Anything?
Yeah, cool.
We have good.
Push the climate.
Yeah.
Test it all. Yeah.
I got a personal question for you.
Sure.
Hope to not put you on blast in front of this whole people. What is your favorite way to eat a passion fruit in not its raw fruit form?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's your favorite application?
I would do kombucha.
Yeah.
I really like passion fruit kombucha. And,
Right.
having such abundance here, you know, it's kind of one of the only ways you can actually get it to be really strong,
Yeah.
flavorful.
Mm.
Let's see. I made some like passion fruit apple pies. That's really good.
How did it into mousse?
Mousse, yeah.
Ooh.
That sounds
Yeah,
good. One of we got a Facebook comment about like coconut mousse kind of thing. It was like a dairy
Panna
custard.
It
Was it
was,
panna
what,
cotta?
what was it? Wasn't it coconut panna cotta
Yes.
with passion fruit coolers?
Yeah, that sounds so
Nice.
good.
Whoa.
Which I had to look up what those things were. And it's basically like a
It's kinda
flan. Yeah.
Yeah, and then coolers is just like a kind of drizzled, syrupy
Yeah.
thing.
Cool. Yeah, well, that sounds delicious. Yeah, it's so sour that it goes well with cream. Or like,
Salad dressings.
yeah, really. Have you had that?
Had passion fruit shrub. Sounds better than it is.
Shrub?
Shrub is like
It's a
a
cocktail.
vinegar
Mm.
soda
Mm.
type thing.
Oh. Sounds
Deceiving.
sounds better than it is, or it is better.
For me,
I would think a
Shrub doesn't
sorbet would
sound
be
very
good.
good.
Yeah, sorbet.
Yeah.
I got some passion fruit to like a friend in Sacramento who's got like an ice cream factory business, and
Yeah.
that
I think
she was
that
pretty
would be
excited about that.
Yeah.
Didn't actually try it, but I think that's a good application, and it's becoming super popular in grocery stores. So
Yeah, for $4.
Yeah, for like
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Unbelievable.
It's crazy.
The cows at the
Yeah.
shop, they're like, oh, that's you
Wicked.
crazy.
The economics.
Or six.
Gouging.
Should look at the
prices.
bag and then ring one up. You're like, why are you spending so much money?
Yeah, seriously.
It's like delicious.
One
Yeah,
day,
you
can't get it anywhere else.
my friend and I grabbed some in Tahoe, which they're even more expensive out there, and he just, because I had never tried one before, this was years ago, and he was like, I'll just get one for each of us, because you have to try one, and so we went and got one, and the cashier rung him up, he was like, what are these? He's like, I don't know, I've never even seen these before, and he rung us up and looked at the price, it was like $15 for two of them, or like $12, $13 for two of them.
Gnarly.
So yeah, cashier was like, I don't know what these are, but I hope they're really good.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's pulp inside.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
all
right.
Sometimes you get an empty
It's
one.
empty.
That's
Yeah.
They were great. They were really good.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
they
good.
were juicy and they were good.
Big and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at New Leaf, they're $22 a pound. And if you drop that down, it's like almost $4 a fruit.
Yeah.
20,
Yeah.
you know, because
Yeah,
eight
it's at
eight fruit per pound.
I think these were about 6.5 a fruit or 6 a fruit.
Mhm.
Just a little more, but
Yeah, and you know, that's relatively small. I think some people get bigger ones. But
Staff of Life, juice pile, series brand, comes in a carton. They're grown in South Africa. South African company.
Is that CERES?
Yes. And it's passion fruit and pear juice.
Oh.
They do.
Paradise,
make
that is your
I
fix.
can vouch for that.
Passion fruit flavor. You want to make a pisco
Not too sweet.
Tip
maracuja?
of the day.
You go get that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Staff of Life is
So
the
many
only.
things.
Other places have the same brand, but they don't have the passion fruit flavor. So.
Yeah.
So when you guys are all like using the passion fruit, I know you have to like scoop it out, but how are you getting it away from the seed?
Yeah.
Like, I've been
Put it
confused
through a
on how to
sieve.
get that out. Like, do I use a juicer or like do I mash it?
I've been using blender on slow speed.
Blender on slow.
Yeah, because I like to drink it as juice, you know, so put it on slow, but like for a few minutes, so seeds don't get crushed. And it separates the seeds and kind of crushes the pulp, so it's all flowing, it's really nice. And just sift it.
High speed.
No, low speed. Yeah, low speed and not for very long, and then you drain it and, you know, sift the seeds out.
So there's one other cool passion fruit fun fact I maybe think people would be interested to hear, which is that they contain MAOIs.
Yep.
Which
Mostly in the leaves, right?
yeah, the leaves and some of the flowers too.
Yeah, some of the flowers, but not in the fruit.
Really?
Only in the seeds of the fruit, not in the actual pulp or the flavor.
Gotcha, not the pulp.
At least what I've read.
That's fascinating. Yeah. Yeah, but you know, there was even
Specifically more monoaminoxidase B I've read too, and that there's certain species that have a blend of both A and B, but that specifically passion fruit contains monoaminoxidase B inhibitors more than just regular MAOIs. MAO or MAO.
So for us mortal men, what does that mean?
Yes. Can you translation?
Yes, of course.
Jen and I were both
So is that like a health
biology
benefit?
at UCSD
Neuroscience,
together.
Yeah. But is that like health beneficial or what is that?
There's different types of
Yes.
amines that are broken down by certain type of enzymes. The enzymes use oxygen to break down amine. Amine is protein. Essentially, there's two main classes of these types. There's an A and a B. In like ayahuasca, for example, they use chacruna for the source of something else, and then they use another plant as a monoaminoxidase A and B. Yeah. And so you would actually need to get both of the A and B inhibited in order to feel the effects of like that kind of a drink. But if you just had monoaminoxidase B, so for example, passion fruit, you wouldn't have like the full effect. It would just have like part of the thing would get broken down and part of it would be inhibited and not get broken down. So there's certain types of things that this is good for inhibiting and certain times that it's not. I think that's a part of the kind of anxiolytic effect of monoaminoxidase inhibitors. Anxiolytic, anxiety reducing.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So some of the anxiety reducing effects are linked to monoaminoxidase B inhibition, not necessarily A. So you don't want to have to necessarily inhibit all of your amino oxidase.
Sure.
You could just target one of them, and passion fruit targets B.
Interesting. Thank
That
you for
was
sharing
my
that.
little explanation. If you guys picked up with some of that, sorry.
Yeah.
Pharmacology.
Yeah. But it, you know, it has an effect on your brain chemicals. So,
I get it now.
Very polite.
you know, that was great.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and so yeah, there's on the Wikipedia page for the Maypop, which is you know, kind of naturalized to the American South. There's like a prairie ayahuasca kind of thing, which is kind of interesting because they use this as a MAOI, and then they use kind of like acacia for DMT, and so the combination is pretty, you know, it was interesting to read about at least. The fact that it can have such strong psychoactive effects. I think mostly for in stores it's used as a sleep aid, and I found that to be pretty effective. And you can make a leaf.
They do a
Leaf tea?
tincture. The
Yeah.
tincture is used. Yeah.
Totally, yeah, alcohol.
Soporific.
True, but not you know 2 mil.
Yeah,
There's
it's tiny
a
amount.
couple things though, quite a few new studies created with the passion fruit, a couple other plants that make it stronger as well.
Do you know if anybody has tried growing these in containers?
Yeah, so a lot of people do grow them in containers. They're pretty at least moderately popular in containers. Yeah.
I guess you need some.
Yeah, deeper root. Yeah, they go deep, is what I've read and experienced, kind of. But yeah, it's fairly common. And in some videos where they have plantations, they grow them all exclusively in containers. So
Yeah, like this is a container.
Yeah, it's a container. It's a big container. Let's see, all the pots are outside. But yeah,
Ten
like
gallon.
yeah, probably like
Yeah.
10 gallon.
10 gallon.
And I feel like
I would say.
Yeah.
Because they get so big, you know. If you want to plant this covering a fence, you got to get a big container.
Well, that deep root is a good point about irrigation because I don't even directly irrigate mine. And they've never had any problem. So, do you know anything about, like, say, drought tolerance and, or what do we do here at the farm?
I don't think they're irrigated at all either. I mean, maybe they're peripherally irrigated, but it doesn't seem right, right?
I think they are irrigated.
They are? Are they
Yeah.
on drip lines?
I think
haven't
so.
seen that, but I don't. haven't
Well, they
seen
don't do very well if it's dry.
it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
are there drip lines there? Have you seen that, or you just?
I think that I didn't look specifically, but I think they are. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, I see it in our section when say if you don't get water, they just wither away. Yeah.
Yeah, but here maybe they had them earlier, like the first year or two, and then they like kind of stopped.
Well, maybe my neighbor's watering the other side of the fence.
Or you just have like wet, good soil, or whatever, water rich.
You're on a spring.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So this is kind of like a lot to explore. It's a really cool plant and genus, and I really hope we can get more varieties and kind of grow some of these other ones like Incarnata, Maypop. Yeah, there's a lot of cool diversity there that I think hasn't really been explored as much. And the same with banana passion fruit. I think those could be very popular in commercially and also taste wise. They're just really floral compared to these, which are kind of like sour, sweet, tropical.
Well, except I think you're talking about Antioquensis, right? Banana passion fruit. That's the one with red flowers, and we tasted it. It was actually really delicious. Because the yellow ones, many of them don't taste that great. It's not.
The yellow fruit? You mean?
Yeah, those for
Like
example,
these?
with pink flowers. Yeah.
Banana didn't.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some like last week in the fruit like. I mean, some people liked
They were
them.
Melissa?
Yeah, some people liked them. I sent some to a guy in Florida, and he said, "Oh, they're so good," and I was like, "Really?" But they're just.
This is being nice, Swabba. This is being nice.
Well, maybe. Yeah.
What was the one with the red pulp today?
Red pulp.
Oh, that's.
Oh, that was a cerulean.
Yep.
Which is on this picture, right? So, most
white
people don't think
one.
that's delicious. So that's here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
And this is one of it's nice because it's cold tolerant, super cold tolerant. Down to the teens. And this is in Sacramento, so
I think that's
regularly.
the same kind that they have on the Kresge garden.
Oh, really?
Wall.
Oh,
It
cool.
could be.
It's like a
Super
soccer
popular.
flesh
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah,
and they
exactly.
taste like awful inside.
Yeah, they're just like nothing,
Almost,
nothing.
yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of my experience too.
almost a little bitter.
Yeah.
I was like,
Well, they're good varieties which are just sweet, but they don't have this floral, like nice flavor like Frederick. When you get,
Yeah.
it's like you're eating flowers. That they smell so nice and they taste good. So
Yeah.
those are much simpler and not that complex and not as nice. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's really it for you. There's also a variety that I was reading about in the book right there, which is supposed to have such hard skin that you have to like bash it with a hammer.
Cool.
And that sounds cool. There's also ones that have edible skins, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, you were saying like a squash or something?
Yeah, they're kind of squash like the giant grenadilla. Have squashy ones.
And they Kaisneana also, the one that you had this picture with tons of them hanging from above. That one also has edible skin.
Yeah, that's another one.
That one, yep.
This one here. You can't see
You
that.
guys grow those here?
Well, we grew. I think it might have died. There's a lady in San Jose who is selling them. So I'm asking Dan actually to find her. She's on Facebook, and she has been selling, cuttings. We planted a couple of them, and I think they got, kind of overgrown with other stuff. So.
Right. Yep, that's kind of the
The trend.
and yeah, it is. But also, it's kind of like they are one of those super tropicals. So it's just we'd have to really have our winters down.
Yeah.
Because we don't have heating.
But it does well in San Jose. Survived winter San Jose really well. So.
And it's kind of like mangoes too. If you plant at the right on the right wall with lots of sun. It might live, might do great.
Microclimate,
Not too much water in the winter, so it doesn't flood the roots. Cool it off. But yeah, they're really cool plants, and a lot of people report fruiting after like one year, which is impressive. So.
Maybe like 4 years on my fig tree.
Yeah. Still alive though. There you go. I mean, greenery is good. My favorite part about them is that they're a vine, and there's so many fences that could be filled with beautiful, leaves and flowers and fruit. One of my biggest motivations in gardening is just to like fruit the world and make there be fruit everywhere. Kind of guerrilla garden.
Yes.
And so, yeah, my kind of goal is to propagate as much as I can and just plant around wherever I can. Once I have my immediate zone filled, I can kind of expand out to the
rest of the world's neighbors wondering.
Exactly. Like the beaches.
That was Bill Mollison's tagline, from permaculture. He made a film which was called "In Danger of Falling Fruit," which is such a cute title. So his theory was that if you've got a garden plot, get a yield. Get a yield. And that's been proven in the permaculture movement of people in urban lots really getting fantastic staggered yields, starting with the fruit trees and coming down, to shrubs and vines, ground covers. So, especially where we live here, it's totally possible.
Yeah, super true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have great climate here.
In Danger of Falling Fruit, remember that one.
Okay. Well, another thing I didn't mention, but passion fruit have evolved really closely with the butterfly-like genus called Heliconius or something, which are these beautiful orange, like monarch-looking butterflies, which have larvae, spiky caterpillar larvae on the fruit, and they eat exclusively passion fruit leaves, and they're kind of a pest. And they've kind of taken back my parents' plant, but so far I haven't seen them in Santa Cruz. So
I did.
You did?
Oh yes, yeah. So, yeah.
At our old neighborhood?
Oh yeah, they grow. I have been kind of reluctant to kill them because they look beautiful.
They're so pretty.
I know, but Patrick Worley said no, kill them all. So, but they, if you look, for example, on I think 41st Street, some restaurants have also them growing outside, and they are sometimes covered with those caterpillars.
Wow. Yeah, and I've heard that one caterpillar takes down a whole.
Between penny ice cream and tongue.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Yep, that's the one.
I've been waiting for it to set fruit, because that's a decorative variety.
Oh really? It's not a Frederick?
Yeah,
Purple?
I think so.
Do you think you would have more success in germination if it was in a truly tropical environment?
Yeah, definitely.
So if would I have to dry out the seeds completely before planting, or could I just start spewing seeds everywhere and seeing what happens?
Yeah, I think if it's warm enough, and wet enough, I think that's a good chance.
You said soil temperature is really
That's
70.
Yeah, well, that's for cuttings. When I
right.
said that, I meant for cuttings, but I'm sure it's.
I think it's true
Similar.
with the seed. I mean,
Yeah.
that was our experience. Yeah.
Yep, they're pretty tropical.
We didn't do well with seed going through the winter.
Right, and we have so much.
We started too late.
The whole native range is tropical, basically. So, tropical mountains maybe germinate the ones that are from the passion. Anyways, thanks for coming, y'all. And,
Thank you.
let's go.
Thank you.